Models Daily Vlog. This is Tuesday's Q&As for the 3rd of February 2016. So I've got loads of questions to get on with in a moment. Quick update from me. To be honest, today I've been playing with the Terminator, who's now nicely dirty. To be honest, this particular one, I've gone to town with it a little bit more than normal to show you all the different things you can do with wash. So with this one, we talk about putting it on with a brush, we talk about taking it off with an airbrush, taking it off with a brush, taking it off with the old spitty rag trick and all the rest of it. But we've done it in like 6 different ways to get the same effect and everything else. But basically I was trying to show that with the wash you can do multiple stages with it. So you can do streaking, you can do pooling, shadow effects, all those things that the armour guys speak about you can actually do with straightforward wash. And the great thing is, don't like it, wash it off, start again. I've got to edit all of this, to be honest, and get it together and all the rest of it, so I'm not sure if it'll be up today. If it not, it'll be up tomorrow, but there's certainly a lot to get on with that one, and really it's coming to an end. So I've got to redo the barrels. We're going to dry brush this entire thing now. We could talk about dry brushing next week, and really go to town on with the last minute details and weathering. The lights, stowage items all can go on. The plough, which to be honest has had a real thick heavy clay wash as well to give it that sort of look, and it can be put together and it'll all be finished for the final reveal. Have to say, it is one of those things. I love the armour, the splinter camo, the bits and pieces like that. It really lends itself very well to doing different types of techniques and different types of sort of weathering you might want to do to it, because technically splinter I always imagine is quite a clean looking camo, but actually when you get going with the weathering and stuff like that, it shows a lot more, especially when you're talking the sand and urban colours and things like that. So generally had a lot of fun with it. I hope to do, and I'm looking at it down there, I've got the Tackham Chieftain down there, and I would love to do that in the urban, which is very similar to the splinter, but it's cubes all over it. So maybe later on in the year I'll get that one out and we'll give that one a whirl. Anyway, down in front of me I've got the laptop up with all your questions down on here. So if you had any questions last week or up till now, we can get through those with you today. So starting right off the bat of where we finished last week, I haven't got my mouse today, so I'm doing it on the trackpad, which I hate. Steve Nimitz asks, Phil, what is the status of the Snap donations even, and Flow on the Go, which I absolutely love that little title, and I'm going to be stealing that. So thanks for that, Steve. Yes, Flow is here. To be honest, it was working out the logistics for payment. Now, you know, obviously the thing is, if I have it come to me, what I have to do is then I have to go to the tax man and explain that £3 of that is a charitable donation going out. It makes things a little bit complicated, but it turns out to be more complicated trying to send it direct to Snap and then to work it all out in various bits and pieces, because obviously you guys are international and they are a very small, you know, as you say, a cottage charity. They are, you know, not big, so trying to work all that is a little bit tricky for them. So I've decided, it's all right, I'll bite the bullet, I'll do it my end. So what we're going to do is that Flow here will come to you in another box with this inside, okay, and then Flow is right in here. So Flow is in with a passport and sits in the box. Obviously you can take Flow out. The idea is you know, give him a fluff up, you've been stuck in here for a while, is to take Flow out and about with you, to take him to your local, you know, everything I would like. You know, we want as many photos and a bit of a backstory with him as possible. Okay, so if you can take him to obviously your man cave, anywhere you do your modelling, take a photo with him with you. If you can take him to any sites, would be brilliant. So if you've got any landmarks and things like that that people will instantly recognise Flow at, please taking him along with you and take some photos with him. Or if you've got a group, an organisation, things like that, that would be absolutely amazing. And we're hoping to get Flow really mobile. He came with me last year, if you might remember, when I did my massive trip, and obviously we went to Alaska for 3 weeks, then we flew out to Hawaii, and I've got photos of him everywhere as well, but I didn't want to bore you to death with it, but I intend to add it all to him, because poor old Flo is extremely well travelled now, and has done some fantastic sites, but you guys, I know, can show him a lot more. So you pilots, I expect to see him at the flight deck at 30,000 feet, and all the rest of it, if you're at work, if you're in the Navy, and all those bits and pieces, to actually, so we can get some great shots of him doing some really weird and wacky things. Obviously it is all for charity. You know about me and Snap. If you haven't got the details on the main site, as you know, please go and have a look at that. What I'm asking for is a donation over £10, okay, and you'll have the luxury of having Flow sent to you from the previous member, okay. And what we're going to do is you contact me and say, I'd love to have Flow And then I can sort out with the donation with you, with a PayPal to me. And then what we can actually do is that we're going to work out a map of the world so he's as close to you as possible before his next jump, if you like. So for argument's sake, I'm about to send him off to Hans, which will probably go tomorrow now. I'm going to send him off to Hans, and then Hans will then hopefully pass him on, maybe directly by hand or to the next member who's closest to him, or post him to the next one. Okay, and then obviously he'll work his way. So immediately he's going to go to the US, and he's going to start going around the US. Okay, so if we can get him the shortest distance, that way the postage cost for you to send him to the next destination will be very small. I would like him to go recorded if we can, because God forbid if we ever lost him, I don't know quite what would happen at that point. You know, so if we can do that, that would be absolutely fantastic. All right. So then that way, the guys who we've spoken to, and you guys who know you are, who do long haul flights, your pilots, things like that, you can take him with him, and it saves the fortune of the postage of going from, you know, one country to the next and things like that. We've already lined up. He's going to go a couple of air routes around the place as well. You guys have been very generous and said that's what I can take him with me and things like that. So the plan is I will set up his own little section on the forum. He'll have his own little page on the main site as well. We're going to have a map, and what I'd love to do is he's going to literally tell a story as he goes. So you make a donation into Snap. It can be as little or as much as you like. You know what a great charity it is. You know I love working with these guys and everything else. Okay, and then we're going to get him off to you, and then you can take him on his own little adventure for, you know, a couple of days, whatever it is. Okay, and then hand him to the next member, and then the next member and the next member, and you guys can have a fantastic story. And what I'm going to do is each week it'll be a flow on the go, as we've now stolen, thanks Admiral, that we'll say, and he is at, and hopefully you get some photos with you. We're saying Flo's here now, and we'll do like a weekly update, and then we can put all the photos and extra information about what he's been up to, you know, with you guys, your families, whatever it is, your colleagues at work, okay, and all those things like that. All right, so I think he can have a fantastic holiday going around the planet a few times, and you guys can obviously have the luxury of having him with you for a few days and knowing that you've done a fantastic job for a good cause and everything else like that. So that's it. And then obviously Flo's going to have passports. He's got a few more as well, but we've got these very nice passports for him. Okay, so if you can put in, that's probably my details in there, but you know, we've got a little map down here, so you can put a little dot where he is. Okay, closest to you in here. And then obviously you can put down here a little photo of you with him, and then what we'll do, we'll get it stuck in, or send it to me and I'll get it done. But if you can do it as it goes, it'll be brilliant. Anything you like down here. So obviously your name, your families, your bits and pieces down here, what he did, where he was, and a photo. He's going to have a couple of these books with him, and as we get short, you know, we'll send more books out and all the rest of it. So when he comes back, he's going to be here with all his goodies, all his bits and pieces and everything else like that. And that's the plan. So this year, instead of like the kits and the usual things donated down to us, which has been amazing for the last, what we've done, 3 or 4 years, has been fantastic. I wanted to do something a little bit more, something a little bit more interactive, a little bit more fun and all things like that, instead of just a prize giveaway and all the rest of it. So we thought Flow on the Go, as it is now known, will be absolutely fantastic. Okay, so we can box him up now, and obviously feel free to decorate the case. So he's got some Flory model stickers on there, but if you guys got some stickers you want to put on the case and all the rest of it, that'd be absolutely fantastic. And then by the end of it, I'm hoping he'll obviously going to come back, but we're going to go sort of around the world anti-clockwise. So he's gone off to the States, okay, and then obviously hopefully he'll go to the States, then down through South America, things like that, then, but you know, obviously jump off to, you know, New Zealand, Hawaii, something else like that, down to New Zealand, Australia, then perhaps up through Asia, things like that, and then obviously back through the Middle East. I'm not hoping I don't miss anywhere en route, and then obviously back through Europe and everything else. The UK will be last, so that you guys in the UK can then dot him around there, because obviously that's going to be a big thing. And then I'd love to have him on display at Telford with all the bits and pieces. So if we can get him back by November, that would be brilliant. But I know we're all guilty of it. You say you're going to post it and it takes time, and even if you got stuck at everywhere for 2 days, I know you guys and your generosity and how many of you are wanting with you, it could take him a while. So if he is out for a couple of years on the go, as long as he's earning good money and all the rest of it, and he's enjoying himself, then that's absolutely fine. So there we go, that's Flow on the Go. Say, Hans, you're up next. He's coming to you. So I want to see him, pictures of you with him in your new man cave and with the family and all the rest of it. And even with Heidi. Get him up there flying. Okay, so, right. So anyway, that was answering yours, Steve. Hans answered a question. Peter says, hi Phil, have you had any experience with the UV curing plastic, liquid plastic that has become available? Not sure if it's made its way to the UK yet, but I've seen it. Funnily enough, we had a glues. I'm terrible at names if you haven't noticed over the years. I'm sure you all have. One of the members sent me this. Now this is this Bondic. And it comes in here. We did do a full-on test with it. The light still works, and all the rest of it. And if I remember, yeah, it does come off as well. But this is one of these sets they're talking about. So you've got glue in here. I can't remember how all this comes off now. Ah, there it is. Needle applicator, ultraviolet light. You can undo it as well, I think, for refills and stuff like that. We have tried it. To be honest, I tried it a lot. In the hobby, it's not as good as you might think. Now, I'll tell you the reasons for my thinking of this. When we're dealing with canopies, for instance, you've painted your canopy, you want to put it on top, you think it'd be brilliant. The downside is the ultraviolet light only cures what it can see. So if you've got a dark canopy, it's only doing that very outer edge. So actually it pings off, as we found. Okay, if you were doing something like for filler work, which was another reason we thought about this stuff would be brilliant, is that you can actually then fill a little gap, use the ultraviolet light, no problem at all. It works because it can see everything. The light can get around it, okay, from most of the angles. But again, when you go to actually scribe it, it's almost got like a waxy texture. So it's very difficult to actually scribe it and do the bits and pieces. It doesn't dry rock hard. It's not like a CA glue when it goes off, goes rock hard. It's quite soft, okay, and everything else. I think where you see it on the telly and for the adverts and things like that, it's great because there's a scene I think where he does some reading glasses and they break and he does it because you can get the light all the way around it from all the different angles. It cures it solid, but from a modelling point of view, you're normally from one area and trying to do it, and that's where it falls short because it doesn't make everything cure. And this stuff never goes off unless it gets the ultraviolet light from all the angles. That's the only downside to it. We did use it in testing. We did do a product review on it actually. It's on the site somewhere. I think it's when we did the news shows. It was part of a news show. And I remember rightly, we did it as a live show as well, one of the old ones. It does work, but it's one of those things that's probably more hassle than it's worth doing. And that's the trouble. That said, if you were using it for aftermarket type things, so diorama building, all those things where you could do with a little zapper glue and things like that, then go for it. We found, like we thought, photo etch might be brilliant for photo etch. Doesn't grip it very well. The photo etch, it dries so hard that it's got no sort of grip to it, no bite. It's really designed for doing plastics and ceramics, something that's got a texture. If you've broken a teapot, you know, a mug handle, you can put this on and get the light around there because it's got texture, you can grip onto it. It's good stuff, but generally for modelling, because the way it is, resin it didn't like particularly, if I remember rightly as well, it's not brilliant. But I have to say, and I do have to thank the gentleman who sent to me, I have used it for DIY things around the house and it works a treat. To be honest, I broke a plastic thing on my computer and I used that for it. Absolute treat. Twice I've done it on the computer. One of the flaps for the trays, SD card trays coming out, snapped. That stuff worked a treat. So yes, it is around. You can use it. We have reviewed it. It's just that I remember years ago, say it's one of those things that sort of does a circuit. A few years ago, I think it was a Japanese company released one for doing canopies and clear glues, and all of a sudden everyone jumped on it. Yeah, and then everyone's canopies fell off, unfortunately. So it's just one of those things. Right, Peter Austin says, why is it my trackpad? Do you do the old double tap? It seems back to front. I don't know why. Anyway, Peter Austin says, hi Phil, thanks for the great site and contact. The Ducati build has inspired me to have a go at a Tamiya bike or two. Love the high gloss finish, hence my question below. Just wondering about clear lacquers. I've got a spray can full of stuff and wanted to know if you could decant it into an airbrush, please. I've done the hairspray technique, I've done the hairspray successfully, but wanted to try it with clear lacquer. Am I risking my H&S Evo CR Plus? Thanks, Peter, or Pete. You're not going to harm anything, so don't worry about it. The thing you have to remember is all lacquers, because they are going to be a solvent base, the gases that come off of it when you decant it, just be mindful they do expand. All right, my first thing is do not screw the top onto a glass jar if you decant it into a jar and things like that. It releases gas continuously and it will break glass. Okay, and in the same way, if you had perhaps something like a cap on your airbrush and you didn't have the vent hole or it was blocked, it would probably make its way via your seals. There's a lot of pressure involved with this stuff, so just be careful with that. When you're decanting it as well, do it outside or have your extractor on full pelt so it's sucking out all the gas, because again, the gases from this stuff are not particularly nice. And because I take it you're going to use the old straw technique from the can into something to decant into, it's very localized. When you're spraying, generally you're just like hosing it down, it's just going out of the way. When you're doing it like that, it's keeping it all very sort of localized, so just be careful how you're inhaling all this stuff, because it is not nice stuff. In short, yes, of course you can, it's no problem at all. You can decant anything. Paint, I've done it with paint in the past and all things like that. Usually though, when you're using a spray can lacquer, that tends to be a standard standalone lacquer, not like a 2-pack. I'd highly recommend going down the 2-pack lacquer and hardener route, purely because you can do like I did in an airbrush technique. You're using a finer needle and obviously a lower air pressure normally. You can thin it a little bit, and you can then put in instead of putting in a full-on 50-50 mix of hardener or whatever the ratio is that it recommends, you can lessen it a bit. This will give you a longer drying time, which could take a week, so be careful with it. But what that enables everything to do is to level out, get itself nice and gloss-like and everything else. That's the secret I found with the bike. If you want to know anything about glossing, go back to the bike, because the bike is where I cut my teeth on and learned all about it. And that is the one thing I came away with, thinning it a little bit more. And like the hardener, instead of it being like a 50-50 mix, I do just a third hardener into it. So it's going to take a long time to go off, and it's gone off now, because I actually had it out a couple of days, a couple of weeks ago now to show someone. And I wondered if it was hard completely, because before it was still soft, you could still mark it if you put your nail in it. Now it's rock hard. So it's taken that extra bit of time to go off. But generally, it's one of those things. Practice, 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 practice. The only advice I can give to doing it for any type of gloss work is preparation. Make sure the surface you're going onto is absolutely lovely. So in this case, we used black primers down on this, things like that. They were smooth, they were nice, and all the rest of it. When the paint was going on, you flood it. It's the only way I can really describe it. Flood it until you've got a lake of it on there, then let it dry, okay? Gloss work tends to have less runniness, if you like. So what you're going to do is find a balance between, it's too thick to be able to spray, okay, so it'll just spit and just lumps of it flying out, but you don't want it wet. You don't want this wet, horrible stuff. So what you're doing is you're moving a lot closer and you're laying it down, thick, heavy coats of it down on there, nice and wet. That way you don't get the dry side each of your airbrush. So when you're spraying, you get like wet in the middle, dry each side. It's all wet because it's thick, and then when it hits each other, it melts in. Okay, then you come along with your hairdryer and dry it, and that way you stop all your runs and your bits and pieces, and you can spin it round. I did it with the tank. I think I showed it with a fuel tank, because it was wet and looking very much it was going to run. That's the secret. That bit from it's going to run to it's on there, you know, it's a fine line. Okay, so you're literally just going to take it as far as you can to it, then you get in there, down there, get the heat onto it. It will make it get an eggshell effect, so the outside will be dry. Don't handle it, let it dry off, then come in with your lacquers over the top and do exactly the same with it. The lacquer just gives it that glass look to it and the scale look to it. But as I said, don't forget, I use automotive paint on mine, no problem at all, and yet I still have people to this day telling me I can't do it. So typical thing with this hobby, don't listen to anybody, just have a go at it. If it works for you, works well. But to be honest, around about Christmas time I was told it couldn't happen, doesn't work. The scale effect will be completely off. Rubbish. Okay, so, and my scroll thing is definitely upside down here. Raymond says, hello Phil, can you give me some info on the lighting system supplies? About to start construction on 1/32 scale Tomcat, trumpeter Tomcat, and would like to install lights inside my model. Right, so you have a couple of options, like we did with the Typhoon, which, if I yank it off, one said Typhoon. I don't know if it's still, to be honest, I don't even know if the battery still works in here. Shouldn't say that really. This is from scale, alright, run out of teeth, hands, teeth. Are we on? We're on. We have ignition. Houston, we are running. Flash away, flash away. There we go. So, flashy lights at the rear. Where are you? There you go. Right, now this one, I'll just make sure the lights still flash and do. Okay, is by Magic Scale Lighting. One or t'other. Hold on, I have a set of theirs down here somewhere. What have I done with it? There it is. You know what, I must get them labelled, those drawers. Right, so, if I just stick that over there. This is your one, so it's Magic Scale Modelling. This, to be honest, is the motor, so it's not the lighting. But these are the guys who use the lighting set for this one. They will custom build you what you want, or you can buy off the shelf. Now this one down here, have a look at the build for this one because it will talk all about it, is their plug and play system. Literally, it's a little circuit board. You have the power thing coming off of it. You have a jumper system of cables, so you can put them, you can adjust all your different ratings. This is the one I'd recommend. This is enough. If I remember, there's 2 more lines coming off of this, which we could have had 2 more lighting, so you could put cockpit lighting into it and perhaps, you know, something else. But for instance, I've got 2 engine flicker ones down here. And we've got the wing lights and everything else. So you could forego the tail flicker ones and swap them to have, you know, the lights on the top of the tail on a Tomcat. If you didn't want to do it that way, and you've still got flashing beacons onto it and various bits and pieces, and you know, you can change the lighting to have the sort of, you know, the glove lights, if you like, the ones top and bottom, the shoulders of the Tomcat. Very simple, no problem at all. There's different modes in there, but the thing is, if you do speak to Richard, the company owner, and say to him, I'm doing a Tomcat, I need 2 engines, 2 tail lights, 2 wingtip lights, 2 shoulder lights, perhaps you want to put lighting in the cockpit, something else like that, then he will custom make you or advise you on the rig you actually want. Okay, and he is probably the best one to do because it is literally plug and play. And as we all know, I'm not exactly the best with electronics at the best of times. Okay, I'm just looking for his email address on here. His address is, come on Richard, you should have it a lot more easier than this. So his one is, you want to have a look at, it's magicscalemodelling, all one word.com. And you can get hold of him at magicscalemodelling@gmail.com. How well the camera can see that. Okay, that's that one down there. All right, he will set you up with everything you will need to do this plug-in and play. Option 2, make your own. Okay, so you've got a couple of options down there. You know, there's different ways of doing it. LED lights now are so cheap. Have a look at the Suffer build. Now the Suffer build had something completely different because Marcus Jellyman custom made me a circuit board with it, with programming and all the rest of it, to give us different lighting effects, okay, which is something I can't do because I haven't got a clue what I'm doing. That's why these guys come in really, really handy. But you could just go down the route of simple LED lighting fixes, and then that way it's just going to run as a rule on a 9-volt battery like this does. Very simple to do. You can get seed LEDs if you're good with your soldering and things like that. You can just rig up your own and do it that way. Your other option, of course, is fibre optics. Now, fibre optics we use, what do we use fibre optics on? One of these. See, I do this all the time and I can't remember which is which. But we did it on things like the Corsair back in the day, things like that, and that's fibre optic lighting. So that's just one light source with fibre optic cable running everything. Okay, so like when we did the Corsair, it's got a fully lit instrument panel with LED light behind, fed fibre optics to give you the light source all in the right place. Same with the wingtip lights, things like that. That's easy because that's literally one bulb, and then that way you can go with lesser power units and all the rest of it. If you're doing the big stuff, the great thing is you can have I've done it through the top here, and when that's down properly you can't even see it, but it's all internal, so you don't have any external wiring coming off of it, which is quite a handy thing. But as I said, it's one of those things, it's, I think, easier to know, get someone who knows what they're doing, make you up a set, and you can just do it just like that. Okay, and the great thing is if it doesn't work, it means you've wired it the wrong way. So when you're doing testing, just make sure your reds and your blacks are all going in the same direction, because if it suddenly stops, that's what it is. Okay. Okay, Tim says, Phil, will you ever have a go at a Gundam or any sort of mecha? Or right, okay, Mig has been doing a lot of mechs lately and going down the town of Weathering. Any chance you can give it a go? Well, if he's doing it, I don't need to. It's as simple as that, really. Because he will teach you everything you need to know, quite frankly, so he will do it a lot better than I can. So if Mig's doing it, go and watch Mig do them. Okay, so Michael Matthews asks Q. Brilliant. I assume it was going to be question, but it's, or whatever, so that's what you've put there. George Thorpe, Phil, I'd like to learn how to do realistic water using acrylic gel and other forms for submarines, ships, etc. Is there anyone on the team who could help make a video to explain this process? I don't know actually, George. You have to ask the other ones that. Sid had a go. I'm only joking. Sid did a good job. Consider it's the first time he ever did water and all the rest of it. He's done it twice now. He did a little river, which actually wasn't too bad, and his ship won. But I know what you mean. There's some guys out there and they do fantastic stuff. Yeah, there's that old photo going around now, which is that U-boat in a storm on the surface. That is absolutely something else. You know, something to behold and all the rest of it. You get other people, they do it and it just doesn't look right to me. Sometimes it's overdone. Other times it's too subtle. Personally, it's something I've never really done. As I say, not massively into the naval stuff and stuff, you know, bits and pieces like that. When I see ships, I quite like them to be on a plinth so you can see the hull and the workings of them. I suppose that's the technical side of me coming out. But, you know, when they're on waterline detail, sort of missing half the ship, especially subs as well. That's even worse. But I'm sure there's some guys in the forum. If you're watching, guys, please answer George down here and shoot him some links to stuff on YouTube and all the bits and pieces, because I'm sure there's somebody out there who knows exactly what they're doing. Right, okay. Andrew, big question. Hi Phil, I use an iPad to watch your videos, but I can't adjust the quality to HD. So I found that playing for the first few seconds and then close it on the web, go over to YouTube and watch it from the history. I would like to watch the videos on YouTube or just the quality to HD. There's any videos. This is sorry. So I'm just pre-reading this in case somebody's put something in here that will get you in. Right. Okay. You're saying this was for any video, even if I had to use my password in. It just stopped. Worked. Sorry. It still worked. Just like the free-to-air videos. Since the 5th or 6th of February, it won't do it, i.e. it no longer appears in my to-watch history on YouTube. I think at the same date you had a PC problem. I've had my laptop but struggled to find as it buffers the same as the iPad is seamless. Is there a fix? Right, now this could have something to do, I know it's a bit long-winded and all the rest of it on this one, but we were invited by YouTube to be on their red thing or something, and it's this thing they're going to start charging for, and I haven't agreed to it or disagreed to it or anything else yet, because it's like an invite only, so I don't want to say no, just in case at some point we do want to use it, but that would have been around about that time, and I'm wondering if they've changed something that I'm not aware of. I know it still streams fine through the site and the bits and pieces, and it streams fine on my iPad, but I've got the small one and the bits and pieces, so it just runs in the mobile mode, and that's what it's doing. When you're running and watching the videos on an iPhone or an iPad, it's using the mobile settings, which is pretty good because it's a small screen, but as soon as you go big, obviously it loses its thing. So as you said, if you go in through YouTube, you can do it. That is the trouble. When you on iPad, it is the only drawback to it. You can't adjust it when you're watching it on the main site because you don't get the option. If you're on your computer and all the rest of it, you can. There's no easy work around it. The trouble I have from my point of view, you try and make things as open and portable as possible, but then you have people who will give people links and various things like that, and it has happened to us because some idiot has even tried to put them up on YouTube after he nicked the link from somebody else or borrowed another member's link because he was letting them watch his account. He copied them to his, then he tried to re-upload them, and obviously we get a copyright notice to us and then can get him banned. But it's one of those things, it's skirting the issues of the security of the site and the various bits and pieces, because technically you're not watching it on the site, so you don't have any warranty. I don't know if that makes sense or things like that, because it is all designed to be watched in the site. As soon as you start to watch it on other mediums, it's really out of our hands. Okay, so Patrick says, hi, just watched part 5 of the MiG. You said after doing the metal coat you were going to seal it before applying decals. Did you use the normal clear for doing this or something else? To be honest, this is one of those things. I'm looking and I'm working on the actual model and I'm thinking, okay, we'll seal it because it needs it, because it's going to be fragile. But when I was working with this stuff, I learned very, very quickly that this stuff is as hard as nails. And when I say hard as nails, This stuff really is a million. This is stronger than Tamiya normal paint. I don't know what this stuff is, but it is legendary now in my eye because it literally is that good. So I didn't bother sealing it, and I decaled it, and then I didn't even bother sealing the decals because they went down so well and there's so little carrier film that I elected just to go in with a wash straight after it and the normal weathering things without sealing this once. And I still haven't sealed it. Even now it's sat here all in its natural beauty and everything else without being sealed or anything on this one whatsoever. So from that point of view, I haven't tried it. In testing, obviously we overcoated it and it worked a dream. So I just would recommend, because you're dealing technically on a gloss surface, it doesn't need to actually be anything after or before decaling going down. The other thing I did try, I put onto it the Micro Industries Set and Sol. Nothing at all whatsoever, and I even had a go with a little bit of Tamiya X20, just one brush. Obviously don't go over because you're going to lift it and it'll go by. It goes a bit fizzy, as I would call it, a little bit dark and starts to go, and then it lays down flat, no problem at all with it. Okay, but I had one tiny little bit of silvering around the 30, and when I say tiny, it was microscopic, and I literally just gave it a dot of X20A onto it, and it goes a little bit dark, and I thought, oh god, that's it, I've ruined it now. Lo and behold, it's fine, no problem on it whatsoever. So I'm very, very happy with that stuff. And as I said, from my point of view of looking at that model, you know, I don't know how well it comes out on camera. It is always the trouble when you do natural metal finishes, but I am very happy with it. And to be honest, I did get it out with the F104, and that's the thing, when you put it next to the 104, the 104 looks more natural, more metally. That thing on its own though looks fine, no problem at all. It's just that if you put it direct side by side, it's not quite as good as the AK stuff, but you leave it on its own, it looks fantastic, and that's what I'm quite happy to do with it. So no, it didn't have any, in other words. Okay, Lee Chambers asks, hi Phil, having got to build a few car kits in the coming months, I recently bought the Fujami 1/24 scale Ford GT40, the P1075 in the Gulf Oil Racing colours that has the orange stripes. The orange stripes are decals and look okay. And if I can probably match the paints for the wheels for them, but the only reference I have found is for the blue body for the Ford Nordic Blue. I can probably get my local auto paint shop to make me up 1/4 of a litre, or get a rattle can from Halfords, but what would cost way too much, and I don't need that much paint. So my question is, have you or any of the team got any suitable colour references or mix from the from the Tamiya or Vallejo, etc., to get me close to what I need? I need a more sensible quantity of paint and cost. You know, the trouble is with that, Lee, is that when you start mixing colours, it's all the variables start to come out, because as I know, when you start going in and somebody tells you it's 10% this and 10%, it will get you in the ballpark, but because you're dealing with decals and colours and things like that, you got to get it pretty much set on, otherwise it's going to have that slight off shade, and when you're going down with off shades and things like that, it's one of those things you'll be looking at thinking, I wish I'd spent a little bit more and got the right colour and all the rest of it. I don't know if the guys over at, oh god, I've got to think of their name now off the top of my bat, Hyro Boy, do the smaller bottles of those types of colours. They tend to do all automotive colours in smaller bottles, and you can do it that way. That would be probably my way of going with it. And again, some of the more car guys who are into this one probably might know of another option of a car colour that is out there, but as soon as you're going into vehicle colours, obviously all of that lot goes out the window because there isn't the colours there. You know, even down to the Ducati red that I used, the ruby red on that, you know, you put a red near it, it's nothing like it whatsoever, and you're thinking, well, okay, could I make up my own? Honestly, it's probably not worth the hassle, because you know you're going to be stood there looking at it forever thinking, wish I'd done it right. So yeah, unless one of the guys in the forum, please feel free to jump in, guys. You see something or anything else like that, then I would probably recommend having a look at Hyra Boy, some of their colours, because say they do the smaller bottles of, and they're colour matched to the genuine articles as well. And if they're not, they're colour matched to the decals, if that makes sense. They tend to do it that way, so they're very good people there. And you give them a call or shoot them a message, and I'm sure they can put you in the right direction. Right, next page. Right, okay, Mark says, come on, where's me? Laptop's on this logo. Hi Phil, just a quick question. What do you clean your airbrush after using Stynylrez? I love everything about this product. That is everything except cleaning it out of my airbrush after use. Once it starts to dry, it forms a skin on the side of the paint cup, and it's become a total pain in the proverbial to shift. Please, any helpful hints would be much appreciated. Right, personally, I must admit, I've still yet to find anything that is better than this stuff. This is your standard Vallejo airbrush cleaner, the number 71.199. Now this stuff really is very good. It will clean anything down that way as long as it hasn't dried, all right? So if you've got something that's dried in your colour cup, it's going to have a Merlin. You're going to have a situation where, you know, it's rock hard. It doesn't matter if you went in there with anything, it's going to have to soften it and eat its way through and all things like that. And unfortunately, it's just bad management. As soon as I finished, I tend to give it a squirt of this in the top, mix it round, dump it, second time dump it, third time I'll blow it through and I'm good to go. But I'm just as bad because sometimes I'll forget to do it and then it's there. Take the colour cup off is my only little bit of advice. The chances are, because it's tight and it's everything down there, it doesn't have time to totally cure and dry and cause all problems. So it's always quite soft down in the neck, but the colour cup around the outside, take that off and scoop it round and dump it and do all the rest of it. There is no, because any type of paint, once it's dry, is a pain to get rid of. But Stynylrez, I usually just standard cleanup or X28. No problem with it at all. I haven't found anything. Obviously IPA, we were talking about this on the forum a lot. Make sure it is the 99% stuff, because there is other stuff out there and it doesn't like it to go thick and gluey and all the rest of it. But use the 99.5% alcohol, that will clean it, and then let's face it, that cleans everything. All right. So yes, but I'm just as bad. Many a time I come down here in the morning and paint cup, should have cleaned it. Okay. What do we got? Nick. Hi Phil. I've noticed you use lead wire for detailing engines and such. I've got a lot of copper wire laying around. Will this still work in a similar way, or do you recommend investing in some lead wire instead? Much obliged. Keep up the great work. I'm learning something new in each and every video you do. Regards. Thank you very much. Okay, right. The trouble with copper wire, which we have got... detailing drawer. Right, okay, quick. Let's have a show you. So, you've got your standard copper wire, like I've got this jewellery stuff. You can buy it and buy the zillion, you know. No problem at all, and everything else. And it's very bendable, okay, and you can do it. And it's like a soft copper. Okay, so you could use this stuff and have no problem with it. The only trouble with using any type of copper and any other type of wire really, it's got a slight springiness to it all the time. You might notice this one here. I don't know why my scissors and everything are today. But you might notice it sort of has a bit of a spring to it. So trying to get it to lay exactly dead and act like wire sometimes can be a little bit difficult. The great thing though is that you can bend this stuff around and then just pull it and straighten it and have no problem. Now lead wire on the other hand reacts slightly different. It's very dull. So when you bend this stuff, although it's got a bit of spring in it and all the rest of it, it just holds its own shape. And you can mould this. So what you can actually do, if you've got something where it's got a step over it, you can physically push this each side of it. I tend to use tweezers each side of it and push it, and it will bend and stretch slightly so it moulds into the shape and acts more like wire. The other thing as well, like with this stuff, if you've got a little technique I do, I'll grab a bunch of it, okay, and then you sort of twist it all together to make up sort of wiring harnesses and stuff like that. This one, to be honest, isn't too bad. It's why I've got this one. It's quite a thin, pliable one and all the rest of it. But again, it sort of, it just doesn't have that quite same look. It does do it, don't get me wrong. It's just that it doesn't have that sort of dead look to it and all the rest of it. And moulding it together, I find it's just easier. Like there, you can break it with your hands and all things like that. But with this one, you can sort of twist it together, and you can twist it because it starts to stretch and all things like that. You can literally make it thinner and thinner and thinner. I'll wait for it to break now. Okay, but you can squeeze it from very thin and it gets thicker as we get up here. Okay, and that's the thing. And then obviously if you carry on, you can literally squeeze it to death like there. Okay, and do it. So if you've got tons of it and it's the thinner stuff like this and it's not too springy, then yes, absolutely, of course you can. It's no problem. The other thing as well is painting it. The lead stuff, because it's very flat and dead, painting it's a dot or copper, it tends to bead off, so sometimes it can be a pain trying to paint it and all the rest of it. But usually the major plus point to using lead or lead sort of derivatives is it stretches a little bit. And that way you can just sort of squeeze it around corners and it holds its own shape. This stuff, if you bent it around a corner, the chances are it's always going to be lifting off. This other stuff you can go in. The other one with this as well is you can squash it and flatten it. So you can do various different techniques. Obviously with copper you can't squash it. That is the only thing. But yes, if you got it and it works, this is the softer one. This stuff, for instance, is a bit of a nightmare. It's too thick. I've used it a couple of times, but it's not nice to work with. I find it too springy. It just bounces back all the time. Okay, so Ryan says, hi Phil, when you did your video tour of the studio, noticed you had an Airfix Nimrod in your stash. Have you done a review on this? If you have, would it be possible to provide a link to it? Any plans to build it? Have I still got it, or is it moved? Yeah, it might have moved now. Oh no, it's up there. Yes, it's over there. I did do a review of it. You're probably talking, 5 years ago now, something like 5, 6 years ago now. It's from the old news show days on a Friday, so it's in amongst there. I don't know about if it's just around generally as a standalone, but it will definitely be in there. Usual thing, go to the Flory Models site and try the search, and you probably might pop up with it. If not, you pop up with other people's builds and things like that of it. Plans to do it? Yes, it's one of those things that when it came out, I went out and bought it, hence it's there. And I was like, yeah, we're going to do it because I love the Nimrod and all the rest of it. Got quite excited when they were going to be upgrading the Nimrod, and then it all got scrapped, and then the Nimrod is no more. So it sort of made its way to the back burner. The novelty effect's gone with it. I even went out and bought all the hemp paint for it and all the bits and pieces for it. But as I say, it's a bit like the TSR2 up there. It's like a project that I'd love to do, but it's not very high on the list at the moment, I'm afraid. But as you say never with this. If you guys are in charge, if you all want me to build a Nimrod or a TSR2 in 48, then, just shout. Okay, Mark says, hi Phil, are there any kit manufacturers, aircraft and armour etc. that actually denote the instructions of what the parts are representing? I know what the wing and the wheels is, but some of the parts are just like a bit of plastic, and it'd be nice to know what the real thing is better. Even if I've never happened on the mainstream, I'd like to see a manufacturer such as Airfix example adding this little extra information in their kits aimed at youngsters. I think that's a great idea, and the only thing I know that does it is, you might have, I don't know if you got the clue from it, the Kenworth. In the instructions it has what they all are, and I actually commented on that because I haven't seen it in another build before. You see it sometimes in sci-fi, it's a laser gun. Yeah, brilliant, Einstein. But generally, you never get a manufacturer list what all the parts are. And obviously, because we're talking plastic, I think that is where the trouble. Because they may make what is a, I don't know, an alternator. But it's got like the mounting to it and the bits and pieces. So it's all one complete part, perhaps with the belts and everything around. So it'd be hard to say that. But they could do generalization, like you could do like fan belt assembly, and things like that, and various things onto it. It'd be nice to have more general information. And to be honest, some of the kits I built recently, like the Bandai ones do it, sorry, not the Bandai ones do it, the Meng ones do it, actually do call out what you're working on, which is nice. So sometimes you're working through it on the armour and it will say what the part is, in the little, I don't know if I've got the things here for it, I do actually. Like it says down on here, like attaching rear hull parts, but other things that they're a little bit more, let's sometimes on here. Let's have a look. Sometimes they tend to be a little bit more specific exactly what you're working on. Guided missile launchers. I don't know if it's actually on this one. Yeah, like here, it's called the KM8 Mine Clearing System Portside, which is one of these. Okay, so it's quite nice to, if you didn't know exactly what it was, and to be honest, these bars on the front, I didn't know what it was, but it is actually an EMT, Electro Countermeasure System Assembly. You know, so yeah, it's quite nice to know. They do it a little bit, perhaps not on this one, perhaps the Bradley had a little bit more info, but one of the main ones I was working on, it did call out quite a lot of the details of what you're working on, but mainstream, none of them do. So, but say youngsters, I'd like to know myself. Okay, so Anthony says Vallejo's are satin and flat varnishes. Can you show applying them perhaps? I've applied this once and it went a bit gritty and almost like a snow on the surface of the model. I used it before and had no issues. Maybe I did something differently then. Just wanted to know if you can show a bit of a run through of the proper procedure, thinning, surface prep, etc. Yeah, I know what you mean, because we all get that snow effect. And to be honest, when I do, or did, I haven't done them now this year, but when I do the teaching, airbrushing, I show about using a gloss to do gloss, satin and flat work. And I also use a flat, to be honest, which is that stuff, to do a gloss, satin, flat, purely from distance point of view and mass, as in nozzle size and airflow and all the rest of it. Because a gloss from this far away, so it's got a long distance to travel, will give you a flat finish because by the time it gets there it's dry. And obviously by upping the air pressure as well, there's more air, it's like a hairdryer effect, it's drying it and stuff like that. The chances are you've just got too much going on, you know, as we go, and perhaps I will give this thing a flat coat, and I'll show you on this guy. Actually, I will do it. I'll give this thing a flat coat tomorrow and I'll show you about it in that, because it'll be easier to do it on something than just a bit of paper or a bit of plastic card. But at the end of the day, when you're doing any type of flat work, all you're trying to do is distress the surface so the light doesn't reflect. Okay, so it gets absorbed in all the angles, and that's what you're trying to do when you're doing any type of flat coat. So if you want a dead flat finish, you want it to be really textured. Okay, if you just want a flat finish, you know, something like this has got, perhaps on the wings especially, it's literally just going to be a nice, probably a satin from a bit of a distance to give a flat finish. But it's got light reflecting off it still, because you don't want to kill it totally off. Other things, like I think when we did the Harrier, stuff like that, we went for a dead flat finish on it because we didn't want any light reflecting off it at all. The same way as with this, you wouldn't want any light reflecting off of this. You don't want any, you know, flashbacks. So a dead flat finish will be needed, because you might see on the actual missile tubes and things like that, because they're curved, they're still a little bit shiny, so that will get a dead flat finish right over it, and to seal it all down as we make our way through the rest of the build with that one. So have a look at that. But normally if you're getting the snow effect or gritty, it's too much. You've put physically too much on the surface and it's stepping up on top of each other like beach. It's like sand on the beach, okay? And it's just, now you've got, instead of it being a very fine line, because it's building up on top of each other, the light is getting caught in it, it gives it that white chalky look and things like that, and it makes a bit of a nightmare. But normally that's purely because you've got too much of the material on there. So in your case, flat resin. So if you're using like the acrylic resin, which is, this is my chosen one, I've got a giant bottle of it over there, but it's 100% acrylic resin. This stuff, I find if you just put down a little bit too much, it goes white. Get it spot on, it looks absolutely fantastic. But again, high air pressure, good distance, one coat will do it nicely, okay? And something else like that. Let's say, stay tuned, that'll be up next week, we'll do it then. Okay, Patrick says, hi Phil, watching Monday's video log, you mentioned people getting emails saying the new systems, the videos have gone up. I never get those, I'm assuming it's some kind of setting, where can I find this? Yeah, I won't totally have an idea. I know some of you sort of jumped in and said, well, tough if they don't like it. I think what it was is that every time, well, first of all, what happens is, go to the main site, go to a page you want to follow. So say you want to follow the Today page, which is what most people do, okay? If you click on the Today page and then go and click on your name, and you'll get a drop down bar will appear, and it says like you can adjust your settings, you can change your email address and your bits and pieces in there. but also it will say on there, subscribe to this page, okay? And when you subscribe to it, it'll appear there. And every time I make a change on that page or it gets updated, you'll be sent an email saying there's been changes and updates made to this page. Click here and it'll take you straight to it. Now, what I think happened was in a couple of the guys, because to be honest, I had 3 people message me about it, because on Thursday, I think it was 6 or 7 updates on the site. What happens is, if you subscribe to all the pages, every time I do anything on there, you'll get it. And to be honest, I made a bit of a cock up on a couple of them, so I had to go back and edit it, so you get another message is sent, okay? Remember, if you don't want to get them, just go back up there and it will click on your name. A drop down box will appear then with everything you subscribe to on the main site. Just click on it and it will unsubscribe you from following them, okay? And that way you won't get sent an email and all the rest of it. The forum, you have a little thing on there that says subscribe to this page, so you click that and then it say anytime anyone posts on it or there's anything developments on it, you'll be sent an email saying such and such. I think you get a snippet from each person as they spoke about it down there as well, and doing it that way. Okay, so that's how you do that one. So Paul Morgan, doing the F16, I'd like to know the black and white technique for enhanced panels as per the real thing. Watch a video on the older F16 but you only pre-shaded them. Guessing you sprayed the white first. Glad to hear you had a nice weekend with the family. Did, thank you, absolutely fantastic. Right, okay, black and white technique. This is like saying doing black work on your model first. It's different techniques for doing different things. Personally, I know the old way was you could just prime your model in white, then you do the black pre-shading, and that gives you the black and white technique. Again, I think it's a little bit overkill. So prime your model with whatever color you like. I would pre-shade it because it's a good way of like being a safety net, because you can always get rid of it if you don't like it. Okay. Then instead of doing a black and white technique, what I will do is I will lighten up the paint afterwards, which is I've done on every single aircraft build, right, barring that one because we darkened it, but we lighten up the panels. So instead of doing black and white technique, I do black pre-shading. That gives me shadow effects and texture to the paintwork. And then what I'll do is I'll usually go in with a color that is a third lighter than the base. So this one down here, for instance, we went in, and the reason it's got that sort of mottly look to it in colors is that basically we've just lightened it, and then we've gone along the centers of panels and put in a lighter. So if you look at any of my builds, it's my standard technique, and we just lighten up the centers of all the panels. So then the pre-shading is quite dark, the center of the panels is quite light, and then you've got the mishmash in between. And I call it Tetris, okay? So like squiggly lines, so it's like right angles, squiggles, you know, bars. So you do it so everything's sort of broken up and it gives you a better look. Let's say F-16s, people often talk about F-16s because you've got that situation with gunship grey on the top. When it fades to hell. Harriers don't seem to get as much bad rap from it, but Harriers are the same, the AV-8B, the US Marine Corps one, because they're gunship grey on top as well, the same as the F-16. They fade to hell up there, okay? But F-16s tend to be sort of, I don't know, they seem to get a bit more hard life. So it's the same thing. But if you watch, as I say, most of my videos, the technique is the same over it. So what I will do is I will do your grey, so you put on this one, spray the grey all over it. No problem at all. Pre-shade is coming through, handy. Okay, and then literally I will then make up add a third white. And then we make it thinner as well, so you can see your bristles through your actual paintbrush. Spray that, and then we'll just mottle it in everywhere to the centers of panels, because we don't want to do the bit where the shading is, because we've done that now, but we can then go around. And in the same case, if your pre-shading is too strong or it looks bad, you can just go over it and fade it back. Okay, and that's what we do. But as you say, the black and white technique, here we go again, it's another technique making the rounds. It used to be that people would actually do pre-shading and then they'd put white in between everything. I'm thinking, you could nowadays just go and buy a white primer, spray your paint model white, and then come in and do it that way. So that's the one with that. Okay, so David asks, hi Phil, watched version 2 of the decaling tutorial. I'm about to start the wing nut wings kit and the decals all over the model. My question is, could you do a further additional tutorial on how to deal with really large decals? Further, any tips you can offer me to do decaling would be appreciated. Decaling's decaling at the end of the day. When you're doing it bigger though, and I mean, I'm assuming wing nut wings, we're talking what, like Lossinger sort of, you know, camo. So the thing is with that one, if you're doing the old L'Orange system all over it, treat it like wallpaper, i.e. make sure that the paper, in this case, the decal, is wet at all times, the surface is wet, so overwater everything. So you can get it down there and get it to slip and slide, get it into position, okay? Then start from one end and push all the water, or like wallpaper, air bubbles, out the other end. Okay, so start down at one end and literally by rubbing it, you know, you can use a damp cloth, you could use whatever, and just work your way right the way up, and then just pushing all the water out of one side. So it's no different from doing a giant tail, something on like this, or I've done tiger schemes in the back where it's like the entire wing's been a tiger scheme on a hornet and things like that. You know, you just start from one end and work your way out the door, so to speak, and then all the water gets pushed out with it. My only little tip would be, if you've got any overhang, you can either fold them over, but don't fold them until you've got a softener on it, because you want the softener to soften it enough so it curves round. Otherwise it'll go so far and then it'll crack. Okay, and that's the trouble. If you crack and split it, then you can be in all types of trouble. Or naturally sit it on the end, and then once it's completely dry, don't cut it with a knife, sand it. So use a medium sander and pull it. So if I had it hanging off the back here, I would sand downwards and it will make a nice even cut right the way along there, instead of trying to do it with a knife. And if you do it with a knife, you can tear it, it can rip and all the rest of it, and obviously you don't want things like that to happen. But generally big decals no different to a small one, it's just obviously scaling. All right, so literally just get in there, take it back as you go, one side, and just work your way out with it. Okay, so if you do wings on wing nut wings, they're quite straightforward unless you've got all the rigging in, but I would do that definitely afterwards. So first thing, prime it, make sure you're happy with it, wet the entire wing nice and soft, and then plenty of water, and then I would actually just then lay down that decal on the top, push it all out, okay, and then get in there with the softeners or whichever you want to do it after it. You know, X28, things like that work extremely well. And the big thing is, leave it, let it completely dry. Come back, you've got bubbles in there, pierce, scratch, score, get the softener onto it, get that air out, because all it is air at the end of the day. If you can release the air, you get it. The great thing is though, if you're doing one of these big camo schemes, no silvering. You have to worry about air bubbles, but you'll never see silvering, and that's the nice thing with those things. Okay, so Shannon, first post. Welcome, Shannon. Nice to have you here. Got two Shannons on the site now. Hello, Phil and everyone else. This is my first post here on the site. I have two questions for you. What is the best way to paint the anti-glare on aircraft, like the A6 Intruders or the F4, where the paint ends in a curve? Also, the black exhaust areas around helicopter exhaust pipes, such as on the SH3 Sea Kings. I always have problems doing this. Also, what would you recommend paint for the interior black trim on the front car around black windshields? I know that pre-cut masks do the trick, but most of the time they're not made for them, and trying to cut it like a part like that you do on an aircraft canopy leads to me in disaster. Thank you so much for your help, Shannon. Right, to be honest, I'm quite lazy when it comes to these things. You've got a couple of options though. For me, 40mm Tamiya tape is definitely your friend. You can buy now it on sheets and stuff like that, and there is other options. But good old-fashioned 40mm Tamiya tape down onto here, okay? Now, if I'm doing something like an F4, you have a couple of options. You can upscale and just scan and make it bigger, print off, put it down, and then cut round it. So I'll stick this to paper and then you can see it through it, and I'll cut round it and then put it on. 9 times out of 10 I will wing it by just working out something that's the same size. So I might take a bottle and think, right, okay, well it's on the end here, it's about that wide, and by the time it curves down the edges, and I will literally just come along, put the tape down, put that on top of it. So literally you just come in like that, put this down, I'll grab a pen, okay, and I will literally, I could hold it still even, it would be even better. I will just rim it round like that. Okay, and then okay, I'll just okay, and then literally this is very fast and freehand, because obviously you could use the thing itself, the actual bottle, and cut around that, but I'm just trying to be quick here. Okay, and then I will literally take my mask and I will stick that over the nose, okay, so it sits over the nose and down the side, just like it on there, and then I'll spray it, and that's it. And then this guy you have as a leftover with the curve, okay, and that's how I do a car windscreen as well. I would really, you know, do it. You could freehand it with paper first, see how it lines up with paper and all the rest of it. Your other option, of course, is your modern sort of curvy tapes. So, you know, obviously you could cut down just some normal thin tape, but we've got these newer ones now. I don't know where my other curvy tape is. I've lost my curvy tape. But you've got thin tapes, so you could actually, these ones are so thin now, you could actually go round and do it. So this is Tamiya's bendy pinstriping tape, this is pinstriping tape, and this is this ultra fine, this is, I don't know, 1/4 of a mil fine stuff, so it really does bend, and literally just curve it round and do it. That's my preferred route though. If I'm honest, I will do it that way and just come in with one of these and stick that one down and we're good to go. Okay, but generally it's just one of those things. Taking your time, being a bit precise with it and all the rest of it, and do it that way. If we do the Thompsons, which I'm not sure if we are yet, which one we're going to do, but the 787, if we do go down the line of doing the Thompsons one, that's got massive curves on it that are going to have to be masked and painted and all the rest of it, and it'd be a good one to show, but it depends on which ones the guys go with, they want me to see. Right, okay, we're running out of time. We've gone over our hour already. So anyway, Phil Presk asks, hi Phil, I'm looking to buy a new spray booth and leaning towards the graphic air booths. I have 3 questions. I'm looking at Steve's and it has the black plastic case rather than the one that I use. The stats seem to be identical, but the plastic case is nearly £100 cheaper. What's the difference? Pass. I think they are internally the same. It's just one has a plastic all-in-one and you can't fold it up and everything like this one does. This one is a bit slimmer, you might see it just sits in there. I think it may be the way the pipe comes off the back and all the rest of it. The other one is it's a little bit more robust. I think it's designed to be taken around and you just plonk it down and use it and go for it like that. Internally though, and filter size, they are identical. There's no difference in there. I remember you saying you get a discount code that shouldn't work but might still. Yeah, I don't know, actually. I'm sure one of the members will. I can't remember what that code was. It's just that one of the members tried it not so long ago and it works still, but I can't even remember what that code is. They gave us a code, because don't forget, you're going back now 5 years or so since I've had that one, and they gave us a code, but I don't know about that. You said about buying filters, a roll is a lot cheaper. Can you give some details again, please? Again, all I did was... Still got it in here. This is a new one, actually. That had a new one in it not so long ago. This is literally this car stuff. You can buy it by the meterage. Well, no, you can't. You buy it in, I think it's 10 metres, 15, 25, 50 metres on a roll. It works out expensive, obviously, if you're buying a massive roll, but these are about 12, 15 quid each if you buy these individually. But I worked out that one of these cost me 50p, because I got a huge roll outside in the actual shed with it, and all I did was take one of their filters, cut the paper ones off the back, and now I stick it in that way, because obviously it doesn't suck it into the actual thing. And now, to be honest, I must admit, I'm probably going to change that one shortly. The other question is, a lot of people ask you, how do you know when your filter's full? Well, the big thing is, if it looks like it's about to suck it through, you know, it's having a hard time, then that's the trouble. The other thing as well is if you take your filter, undo them on the side and pull it forward, if it's pulling it back really hard, your filter's probably chocker and it's time to change it. Because literally the air should be passing through this. It shouldn't be getting stuck and causing a blockage, okay, and everything else. But usual thing is, if it doesn't seem to be drawing it out as fast as it did, change it, okay? But yeah, have a look on eBay, and they call them car painting filter, a first stage filter. That's all it is, and I think I paid 35 quid and I've got a 25 metre roll by 3 metres or whatever it is, by 2 metres out there, and I'm not even anywhere into it yet, and I've done it, that's got to be my 4th or 5th change on that one now, with no problems at all. Right, Fraser, he says, hi Phil, I'm making the 132nd HAS3 links. What colour would you do the anti-glare above the pilot's head? Thanks. Sorry, how would you do the anti-glare? Right. To be honest, I tend to use the clear colours, so you can knock up, some people do them blue, some people do them green, and some people do them smoked, so it's personal choice on whichever you want to do. Just check your references for your one you want to do, and then I will just give them a coat of that. Okay, so again, you want to make it quite wet and glossy, so what you can actually do is, if you're going to do it in the Tamiya colour, so you've got X25 up there, if you're going to do it that sort of green tint, or you've got the blue, whatever it is, it's around the other way, X23 is it? And then what you can actually do is just thin it and just spray that over the top. That will give you that sort of opaqueness, depending on how thick you want it to be. So obviously if you give it lots of coats of it, it's going to get thicker and thicker and thicker and darker with every coat. If you want it to be quite light, just give it the one. If you want to give it a bit of in between, the greeny blue, do one side green, one side blue, and you get the greeny blue look. Done that before, and that works quite well. But yeah, so that is the thing to that. The other way, of course, you can do it is a thinned amount. So just thin it with X20A, nice and thin, and then just brush it over the top, because it's really runny and soft. It's self-leveling, and it will be absolutely fine into it like that. But actually, it's very straightforward. Okay, so how many questions we got left here? Gary says, "Hi Phil, question about the spray booth and air compressors. Do you know if they are sparkless motors? Do you have any concern that they might have a risk of explosion if you use solvent paints? Love your build, particularly the MiG-21. You mentioned you do an all-over gloss coat before the clear wash. Curious to know what you overcast it with." Spoke about that. We didn't bother in the end. We just went straight into it with nothing on it. So it's completely hard as nails is what we're basically saying about that paint. These here are designed to be sealed units. It's what it is. The motor isn't like a fan, it's like a drum. It's one of those in there. That's how it draws it out, and I think they are what they call, it's like brushless motors, whatever they call them, in those, so you don't have to worry about it. Lesser spray booths obviously are. Now this is the big thing. I think it's a little bit of, oh, I've got a spray booth and you've got some PC fans sucking it out, you're a danger, you're going to blow up. I've never heard of anybody blowing up, catching fire or anything through solvents being sprayed through. The thing is, it's drawing it and sticking it out the way. You'd have to get the right oxygen, to fuel mixture perfect to get a spark, to get that to go, and I've never heard of one yet. I still maintain it's a lot of scaremongering by people who are just trying to flog out spray booths, and they should be this and should be that, because I imagine a lot of these really cheap Chinese spray booths probably are not brushless motors in them, or sealed units and things like that. They're probably the cheapest motors you can find, and you never hear of them blowing up, and they'd still work fine and all the rest of it, so I'm not too worried about it. And also the thing is, the mesh at the front is designed to catch the particles. Okay, it's not just designed to exhaust this out, it is a two-stage system. These other ones down here, these aircon ones, are even better, because they have got obviously the first stage filter like this, okay, which is blue, and then it's white on this side, which is a densely woven fabric or fibre. This is quite a loose one on the top. They're all designed to catch moisture. So and if you spray and do an airbrush dump, look, you'll see the beads of water sitting on here. You turn it over, you never get water on the other side. Okay, so I think that it probably not enough gets through, but these guys over here, the aircon, they've got a charcoal one behind that as well, so they're designed to stop everything. So there's very little gets right the way through, so they're even better in some ways. But have I heard of one? No, and I've never seen one. I've heard people say they've had sparks and flashes, but you say to anyone, like, who's in the know and does this a lot, have you? And they're like, no. So I won't, unless you're there literally spraying cans. Like, I reckon you could probably spray a can of WD-40 at a motor. I don't think it's ever going to suddenly erupt into a flamethrower out the back, but look at it positively, it's all going out, or hopefully, so you'd be fine. No, don't try the WD-40 one though, that's just stupid. Destroy my spray booth. Okay, so right. Lee says, "Hi Phil, quick question, request relating the forum. Is it possible to provide a couple of forum colour schemes? Different. I ask this as I use my mobile device to read the forums when I'm out and about. 9 times out of 10, in blazing sunlight, I keep up with the recent posts by using the the newest message board threads at the bottom of the page. The problem is the blue and black is very hard to read on the mobile version. Does give it the mobile version does give the newest thread links. I know from my past admin days, forums come with a choice of schemes. Is this something that you could discuss with the forum admins? Maybe a scheme that already are and just can't find them. I've never heard of it, never had a problem with it. I know if you do the mobile version, then that is all in blue, isn't it? It's very much that standard blue that all admin boards, forums and that are in. So you could switch over to that. R1, I know that one down the bottom is like a turquoisey blue, isn't it? I can change them manually, but I don't think there's a way of actually physically anybody who you can't just pick a colour scheme and do it like that. I don't know. If you want to change colour schemes, start a thread, start a poll, and if anybody wants it to, then I will sort it out and we can change it. But we've always been black and red since dawn of time, so it's just the scheme it's always been in. But that one down the bottom has always been a little bit problematic. Originally it never worked that brilliantly, so we got rid of it. Then it seemed to work okay, so we brought it back. But I always wanted the font to be bigger and it to be sort of in the middle and various things, but we've never really got it to work well. That's partly because our forum isn't the standard off the shelf you just buy a forum. Ours is a little bit custom. I altered it back in the day, and then we had a massive update, and the only way we could get it to work is it to be even more custom, and that is the trouble with it. So I don't know, maybe we need a new forum layout and all the rest of it. There's thousands of designs and colours and all the rest of it. Colin says, I have a photo of the radar array for the Zucchomori Yuhu, or OW, which is the 219. The photo etch are about 2 millimeters wide and have to be attached in parts on the turn antennas at 90 degrees. Obviously the contact area is a minimum, so I assume that cryo, super glue, is out of the question. Any suggestions please? Soldering. Keep up the great work. PS, sorry I posted the question in the wrong place originally. You're right, Colin, I haven't looked anywhere else, so it's good. Okay, soldering. The trouble with soldering as well, when you're doing tiny little things, is obviously not melting the part you're soldering and all the rest of it. So you need a very good soldering gun with a heat setting, and not just one you plug in the wall like mine, to do it. So sometimes that might be a little bit out of the way. The only thing I would suggest is perhaps using CA glue, because it's probably still going to be enough to hold it, and that's what we're talking here, actually holding it in place. Just the tiniest amount, and then I would actually use thinned PVA glue, because that's what will actually then hold it in position and give you a little bit of shock. And that's what I like about using the PVA glue. The PVA glue gives the ability of photo etch that little bit of movement, because all too often if it's like a CA glue or something rock hard, if you touch it, it pings off. PVA glue I found, especially with antennas and aerials, just gives it that little bit of wiggle room, so if you hit it, it just moves a little bit and then it's fine, okay, and you don't have any problems with it and you go on. All right, so that is usually my way of doing very fine photo etch, things like that. Super glue, tiniest bit is just to hold it in place, that's all it's going to do. Okay, then I will actually thin down 50-50 mix normally with a little bit of PVA glue, okay, and go right over it. If it's the tiniest, thinnest bit, I probably wouldn't even thin it. I'd use like a needle to applicate it and put it actually exactly where I want it, and then just pull it round, drag it round and leave it like that, and that'll dry crystal clear and you'll never see it. But when you're dealing with things that are that small, it's a bit of a nightmare trying to get them all in. Okay, Robert says, hi Phil, I'm wondering if it's possible for a tutorial on doing exhausts. As no matter what I read, I still can't get the heat blur and metal on the exhaust for jets, i.e. the F100. Never mind the right balance of colours and knowing what to use. Quick tip, I have a thing here for that, because when I was cleaning everything out, I found one. These work really great. Now these are the Tamiya makeup sets, weathering sets, and it is makeup in a thing, if I'm getting. What you actually get is, and I've got other ones, applicator, but I've got the blue, gold and the sooty colour, and that's how I do bluing. Now the greatest thing with this is you can precisely put it where you want, and you sort of blend it, and you can get the blues and different colours. They do different ones of this as well, but this is for the exhaust one, I think they called it, because it's burnt blue, burnt red, and oil stain they call it, but it gives some very nice stuff. So if you did want to come on to sort of metalwork, pipes, stuff like that, you can literally just brush it. What I tend to do is I'll do the blue first right at the hottest point, and then I'll just go a tiny bit of the actual burnt red on this side, this goldy colour each side, so it has that sort of heat distortion look. Then I use the oil stain one a little bit past it, so you get that sort of, you know, area of heat burning through, like, you know, get a blowtorch out and heat a pipe, see how it goes, and do it that way. In the same notion, it's exactly what you're going to do if you're going to come along with other things. So you could use clear blues and stuff like that. They do work. I don't think they're as good, but the other option is obviously you can get metal colours in heat colours. So Alclad do them. They do burnt metal colours in blues and stuff like that. But honestly, these do work. You know, they work really, really well, and they're quite handy for getting in tiny little areas. And if it doesn't work, you rub these off and start again. Yeah, if you sprayed it down, you're in trouble. Okay, that is the other thing as well. So you can do some very nice effects with it. But the trouble with all heat work is, you know, what one guy would say is overdone, and somebody else would say it isn't enough. Okay, so it's very sort of, you know, your model. Don't let anyone tell you it's different. Find your references of how you want it and do it like that. But generally, it is one of those things. There's different techniques of doing heat work and everything else like that. But from my point of view, I do like using the old Tamiya weathering sets, purely because if it goes wrong, I can start again with it. Okay, so hopefully this will be almost the last question, because what are we now, an hour and 15 in? Even on my new supercomputer down there, it still takes a little bit of time just to get the editing done and uploaded, and then YouTube sits on it for hours on end. Keith says, "Hi Phil, quick question. Sorry if it's been asked before. What are your primer colour for yellow top?" For a yellow top colour, so i.e. I presume like yellow jack colours, things like that. For me, I'll use white. If anything's going to be yellow overall, I would use a white primer, purely because it's that thing of reflecting. It will reflect the colour. A lot of people said about using Ducati, I should have used a white primer. Probably, I think red is that borderline colour. Anything darker than red doesn't matter, you know, just go whatever. But you have that thing where you're going to spend more time trying to overcoat the colour to have it to come through. White's neutral, you're good to go with white. So unless you're going anything lighter than yellow, then I would start going darker, so to speak, so you've got that thick, heavy colour for it. But yeah, that would be my one. I would go in there with a white primer and then yellow over the top, just so it reflects through. A bit like when we did the wing tips for the helicopter. We wanted that day glow colour, but obviously if you go day glow over anything, it just won't go. You spray it white first, day glow over the top, ping, pops through, looks fantastic. You try that over grey, just won't have that same bite and sort of look to it and everything else like that. Okay. Sean says, "Phil, 2 small extractors. You have look the ideal size for me. What make are they? How much do they cost? Are they recommended for a main extractor? Bearing in mind, I currently have an extractor." These 2 ones I got each side are the Aircon ones from Everything Airbrush. There's a full review on that. Go and have a search on the site. I think they're great. They are, I've got to remember how much they are now without dropping myself in it. They're half the price of one of these, put it like that, the big one. I think they're around about 160 quid, something else like that. They could be cheaper, but don't forget, Flory Models Lot, we'll get a discount on them anyway. So you're going to get your 10% on top, so you can get your discount price on those and everything else. Just make sure you get the 35 watt one. Is it 35, 30 watt? Don't get the 18. The 18 is nothing but useless. I did have an 18. It went back because it doesn't draw enough away. It's pretty crap. Okay, so make sure you get the 35. The 35 has got as much draw as this thing's got, and that's like whatever it is, 90. So that one's got like a 90 watt motor in it, and it draws. But this has got a 30 watt motor, or 38, and obviously it's half the size. So the draw is even better on one of those than it is on the big one. Okay, so yeah, really good. The only drawback to these is the vent is at the back. So like this one, the vent is on the top, so it can go right up against the wall and it goes out. This one is great if it's in the corner, but if it's up against the wall, by the time you put a mount on that, and to be honest, it just shows happy because I always have it under here so it's ready for when it's on the table. I have this. Now this is one of these door jamb ones. It didn't come with it, but it fits onto it. But this fits on a door jamb, you know, so, or in a window. Okay, and then what this does, this butt screws, you've got the screw holes on the end, onto the back of it, and it exhausts it out. Okay, and obviously this thing goes very way. Well, there you go. But yeah, you can buy these and they literally just pop on the end like that and you're good to go. Okay, but they pretty are a must because unfortunately I highly recommend that you get the stuff that comes out of your airbrush out the room. You don't just want to be recycling it. So that's what I would do with those. Ian says, hi Phil, my question is, do you think all the Johnny Came Lately modelling videos, hosts, producers think they have to wear gloves all the time for kit previews, reviews, assembly, etc.? I'll tell you why that is. Is I reckon they've got manky hands. And everyone says, oh, you've got such lovely hands, Phil, and all the rest of it. And it's like, well, I can't chew my nails anymore doing them. Because I must admit, I saw a video of another guy doing them. And he had the worst fingers with nicotine stains and everything on there. And I was like, God, do I look like that? I hope not. And no. Not that I smoke, but used to. But yeah, it was one of those things. And it was like, right, now I'm going to do. But I think that's what a lot of guys do, is they see their hands on telly and they think, oh. So, yeah, it's easy to wear a pair of gloves. Ron says, hi Phil, quick question for me. What happened to the trench run? Has it gone the same way as the container ship? Was your container ship? Yes. No, it hasn't. It's there, all ready to go. And as I say, I don't know. Yeah, you must have seen the band sander when I showed you on that one. I've got my band sander now. I've got to get my big hoover in from the shed and then I'll hook it up to it so all the resin gets sucked clean out, or I'll take that outside and do it, which probably just be as much mess. So I've got to hook it up to my sander because I need to get all the backing plates and the bits and pieces done. But no, it's definitely not, and that's why it's just literally there on a chair waiting for me to do. Last question. Malcolm Towns. Hi Phil, would changing the compressor make any difference to how much paint you use? I had a compressor without a tank using my Evo. Now I have a new one with my Infinity 2, same PSI, but I tend to use a lot more paint. Technically, it shouldn't make any difference. Your flow, and have a look at the video I did on paint flow, and I show you a 0.4 and a 0.2. I would just check it is a 0.2 then in your Infinity and not a 0.4, because it shouldn't make any difference, because as long as the airflow is the same, obviously if you've got more air it will draw more paint. That's my only thing. So check your airflow is the same PSI, and that may be where the difference is. You've got a tank, it'll be a stable pressure. If you've got one that is just like a bladder one without a tank, it's tending to do it at the same time, so it's pushing that air. Probably not going to be the same amount of PSI in your tank that you have normally, because obviously the tank's just topping up when it's running and then gets up to pressure and that's it. But the other one may be different, but from a point of view of needle size, it will be the same rate coming out of it, but if you've got more air going through, it's going to be pulling more paint. So does that make sense? Hopefully. So yeah, you're just drawing more paint through and sending more paint through at a quicker rate than the other one, even though the needle size is the same. So yeah, that'll be that one. So unless we have do you know what, oh god, now I've done something and my laptop's died on me. Oh, I don't know what that button does. Oh, trackpad on off. Right, okay. Right, let me just refresh the screen if we're all done for the day, which looks like we are. Okay, place order. Okay, just go like that, and then that way I can get my video in there. There we go. That tells everyone that I've just finished it. There we go. Thank you very much for all your questions today. Look at that. A bit shorter than last week, because I think we went an hour and 45 last week. What I'm going to do is I'm going to obviously edit this, get that sorted. I'm also going to get edited the weathering stage and all the bits and pieces you can see down here on the Terminator, so we'll get all that one done for you. Flo is obviously going to make his way out. I'll also set up the section for that and everything. I'll get that done tomorrow. I am going to make a slight change. I did speak about it yesterday, so there'll be a review up on Thursday and a review on Friday, plus all the other bits and pieces as we go like that. So there we go. That's about it for today. Keep on voting for what scheme you'd like the 787 in. I can't get hold of the extra. There's an aftermarket part that stretches it to a 900, because that's the only difference is it's whatever somebody said, 6 feet extra long, whatever it is. So I've got to see if I can get hold of that part. If I can't stall the build, because I literally am going to start on that this week. And let's face it, it's not going to take long to get that thing together. So we're going to be pushing through with that one. I don't really want to delay it. We really want to push on. So if I can't, it's going to have to be something in an 800 scheme. And thank you to the member who said that Zvezda are releasing the 900 scheme. So it should be out any time now. So you wait, I'll do it, and then they'll release it. So sod's law on that one. So there we go. That's it from me. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all tomorrow.